and Mayim. And Mayim, right? And Mayim. Very good. We're going to call that the Be'er. Well. Ananei Kavod, the clouds of glory, right? We're now going to be dealing now with Bamidbar chapter 20 in Parshat Chukat. In merit of who did the clouds of glory come? Does anyone know? Did he learn it before? In merit of who? B'schut. In merit? No. Ananei Kavod came in merit of Aaron. We're going to see later in the Parsha when Aaron passes away, Ananei Kavod apparently disappear, and the king of Arad thinks it's an opportunistic time to attack Israel. The Be'er, the well of water we're about to read about, in virtue of Miriam. It's a Gemara, Masechet Tanit, page 9. And the man, in merit of Moshe. Let's now take the opportunity, begin reading chapter 20. Perakaf, Pasuk Aleph, I'm reading, put your finger on the place if you can in the Hebrew text. Vayavo v'nei Yisrael kol ha'eda midbartzin, when? B'chodesh harishon. Vayeshev ha'am b'kadesh, vatamot sham Miriam, vatikaver sham. As a result, I'm adding by myself, Pasuk Bet, v'lo hayamayim la'eda. Vayikalu al Moshe v'al Aaron. Some of you already have a BA in explaining what is al Moshe v'al Aaron, reading against. Very good. As we learned in last week's Parsha Korach. Opposition again. Against. And my dear friends, I think it's you. Yeah, with you with the kippah. Last Shabbat night in the synagogue, I can vouch for it. You're the one that said, Arba'im Shana Akut Bidor. You quoted King David in the first Mizmor. How many years were we in the desert?
40 years.
40 years. Until the end of this Pasuk, we count our years from the Exodus of Egypt to a great phenomena. Chumash Bamidbar is dealing with which year of the exit of Egypt? Second year. We've been playing ping pong. It's a Chinese game, some of you know it. Ping pong, right? We started off with Iyar, and then we went back to Nisan, and then we came back to Iyar, and we started traveling. And yesterday we said the burning of the Parah Duma was back in Nisan. We're getting a little dizzy. Now watch me. Do you know how a grasshopper skips? I don't want to do it while they're watching us. I would otherwise stand on the table and jump forward. We've now lunged forward to year number 40. Anyone else say shh, psh? Anyone else say psh? There you go. We've now lunged forward to year number 40.
Just like that? But just for this chapter? Or?
From now on.
Oh, why?
What's your problem?
Like what happened to all the years?
Beautiful question. I was waiting for that question. And what's the answer?
We don't know.
You're right, though, we don't know. But
Nothing happened.
But add another word. Nothing special, significant happened. Otherwise, what would Hashem have done? He would have written down. Come here, Hirsch. Right over here. Hirsch, right over here. Nowhere else next to me. In other words, we've just skipped to year number 40. And, gentlemen, what was supposed to happen during these 38 years on Tisha B'Av, according to the Midrash? They would dig their own graves and see who died. And wait to see who dies and who doesn't die. My dear friends, we're now B'Chodesh HaRishon. You said B'Chodesh HaRishon, you mean the month of Nisan. The month of Av passed last summer, and we stopped dying. Whoever is alive is called, and I'm reading again Pasuk Aleph, follow the reading, Vayavo Bnei Yisrael Kol Ha'edah. The entire community of Bnei Yisrael, they come to where? Midbar Tzin, the Tzin desert. When? On the first month. And I'm adding to you, why does the Torah say Bnei Yisrael Kol Ha'edah? Because the entire Edah, as Rashi says in name of the Tanchuma Midrash, is complete. Finito, we finished all the people dying. Whoever is alive, complete the sentence, will enter Eretz Yisrael. Exactly. And we're living in a place called Kadesh. Some say it's Kadesh Barnea, some say not. And now, by the way, the Rashbam, the grandson of Rashi, proves that we're now talking about the 40th year, okay, in B'chodesh HaRishon, because later in the Parsha, we learn that Aaron passes away in the 5th month. But there, it states the 5th month of the 40th year. And this means the 1st month of the 40th year, as he understands it. Okay, Miriam passes away. She doesn't merit to go into Eretz Yisrael, and we see the immediate reaction. She's buried there, and what happens in Pasuk Bet? Velo hayamayim leida. You all know that the word velo starts off with the letter Vav. Hirsch, what could the letter Vav mean at the beginning of a word?
It could mean and. Is there the litigation in the center? Is it u or is it just ve?
Whether it's u or va, one meaning is and, another meaning is?
Well, I wouldn't be sure, but I do know.
You said or, and or.
Yeah.
A third understanding will mean?
If you have something that's past tense, it'll make it future tense. Or something future tense, make it past tense.
But here the word is velo. I want to mean in front of this preposition, the word velo. It could mean and or, but what could be the significance of the vav? Consequence, connecting vav.
There's a
Vav hachibor, it's connecting.
If there's a Dagesh Kol letter right afterwards, it's going to be refuted.
Okay, it says velo. Gentlemen, this pasuk is connected to the last pasuk. Namely, after the passing away of a crisis starts. Velo hayamayim la'eda. And no water. Is that a problem?
Big problem.
Why, there are no 7-Eleven stores to buy a Slurpee? There are no water, and we're living in what type of climate? Tropical? Excuse me, we're not living in a tropical area. And therefore the Torah says in verse 2, and I'm reading it again, Velo hayamayim la'eda, the entire nation. Renan, I want you to have a chumash in front of you. There's no water for everyone. And therefore, we're told about a congregation, an assembly. Al Moshe v'al Aharon. Gentlemen, we're now starting a section called Mei Meriva. The striving over waters, the fight over waters, which in this section, unfortunately, there will be a decree against Moshe that he and Aaron will not go into the land of Israel. Here, Aaron will pass away. Later, months later, prior, about 12 months later from now, Moshe will die as well. And we're going to have to understand, if we can, Aleph, what will be the sin? And number two, what's significant that they're complaining now? Because here in verse 3, we see the expression of their complaint against Moshe and Aaron. We're reading it. Vayarev ha'am im Moshe, quarreling. Miriva, lariv. Lariv is to quarrel. Gentlemen, you and I can argue. That's not the word listed here. You and I can express opinions. That's not stated here. A miriva, as Rav Shimshon Frodersh explains, I think, in the section between the shepherds of Avram Avinu against the shepherds of Lot. The word there is, quote, Vayihi Riv. Riv is a type of argument or quarrel where there's no compromise, no solution. And therefore, Avram says, we're going to have to separate ourselves. That, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the first times that the word riv or meriva, quarrel, is stated in the Chumash. Here, we're told that's the topic here. Vayarev ha'am. They're quarreling so much against Moshe. There's no solution. And they say, Vayomru le'mor. What do they say? Velu gavanu bigva achenu lifnei Hashem. Wow. Wouldn't it have been better that we would have passed away in the passing away of our brothers before God? What are they talking about? Which passing away?
The generation of the Meraglim.
Those the
Maybe you're right, the Meraglim, which would be a plague, and they would instantly die. And now, I want to interview, maybe that as well. Something, a terrible plague, pestilence, and they died instantly. That's how they died. Gentlemen, I want to interview Hirsch in front of everyone. Hirsch hasn't drinking any water for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. You're now on Machon Meir news. How do you feel not drinking for a few days?
I feel awful. I'm about to collapse, especially in the Bamidbar.
Yeah. What do you feel in your throat?
Very dry.
Very dry? He's very
We can hear,
Very dry. It's like you're drying out beef jerky. It's like.
okay. You just seen Hirsch Tiveria interviewed and telling you the worst thing, God forbid, is death from thirst. That is the most cruel death, perhaps. When God forbid someone is so thirsty for days and days he's not drinking, that's so painful we can't even imagine. Correct? Okay, that's enough. Please drink water right away. Gentlemen, let's understand what's happening. There are those that ask, could it be that this is the only time that they're complaining for the lack of water? The answer is yes. What happened for the 40 years? For 40 years, the management by God to the Jewish people, insofar as our basic needs is concerned, is the dimension of miracles. The dimension of miracles is that God is supplying water for the Jewish people miraculously at all times. Okay? Now we understand they're needed, right? All times that they need water, and God is providing miraculously. And now, we're the beginning of the 40th year. 2 understandings that we can simply state right now for the water crisis. Number 1, like you said, Ariel, the Be'er, the well of water, is brought in merit, b'zchut, Miriam. Miriam passes away. Instantly, there's no water. Crisis situation. We had water in the merit of Miriam.
Why wouldn't Israel, or just the nation being able to survive, why wouldn't they merit it? Why have to merit it from Miriam?
Very good question. What does Miriam apparently represent? She's selfish. Is she selfish?
No.
She's selfless.
Right.
She escorted her brother, took him down to Yam Suf, put him in there. She took control over her brother's life, Moshe, as a baby. When he could no longer be hidden, she was full of faith and watching. She stood there and watching what will happen of him. She's a woman of responsibility. She's a woman that loves Israel, taking care of Moshe, and therefore she merits later to get what great attribute, what great quality? Prophecy. Miriam HaNevi'ah. Repeat that.
Miriam HaNevi'ah.
Now, we don't have other prophetesses. Women stated, Nevi'ah. She's the only prophet that we know. Although all of the women of Israel prophesied in the song at the splitting of the sea, but she's the only one called Miriam Nevi'ah. She's so special that she's bringing down this affluence, even of blessing, of water. So far right now we understand that we're going through a crisis, and the Jewish people have to understand that it was in merit of Miriam. That is one understanding. Let's continue reading the mistakes of this group complaining, and then we'll get to another understanding of the water crisis. We're now reading Psukim Dalid. Do you see Dalid? Hey and Vav. 4, 5, and 6. How do you pronounce properly? Who knows how to read here? Yeah, you with the shirt with the colors of... Can you read properly? Who can read the first word properly of verse 4? Wow, how did you know that? Because you see the cantillation sign under the mem. Very good. I was hoping that someone's going to make a mistake and read Vilama, but you read it correctly. Kol hakavod. That's a 3-pointer without a doubt. Vilama haveitem et kahal Hashem el hamidbar hazeh. They're complaining. Why did you bring the congregation of God to this desert? Lamut sham? Anachnu uve'ireinu? Gentlemen, there's something they're saying that's expressing humiliation. What is the humiliation that they're expressing? We and our animals. We and our animals are dying out of thirst. That's quite humiliating. That's a type of torture that's humiliating you. You know, if they would die, no, because of something, God forbid, terrible. But we and they are dying the equal death. That's humiliating. Anachnu uvireinu, we and our animals. Further complained in Pasuk Hey. How do you read the first word? Velama he'elitenu mimitzrayim. Why did you take us out? Bring us out. Why? Lavioton el makom hara, to bring us to this terrible place. Lo mekom zera. You can't cultivate anything. You can't plant seeds here. Uteina vegefen verimon. 3 favorite fruit trees that are delicate, sweet. You don't have here figs, vines, or pomegranates. Umayim ayin. Look at me. Thank you. Umayim ayin. Do you see my ayin? Is that what's stated now?
No.
What's stated? With an aleph. Ayin from the word ein, which means umayim ayin. It's poetic. Umayim ayin lishtot. We have no water to drink. And then, after these strong complaints,